What's up, everybody? We're back again for another Fall Obsession podcast episode. I am Sam Thrash, your show host, and thanks for tuning in to another new episode. This week is part two of our 2023 Colorado Flatland Deer Hunt saga, if you will. Our last episode, I was fortunate enough to get to recap in Mule Deer Camp with my good buddies, our Western regional coordinator Tim Burgess and one of our show producers Mike Teepee. We recorded an episode in camp there recapping my first ever mule deer that I was able to kill, and I was super fortunate to shoot this buck with a bow, spot and stalk, flatland mule deer. One of the most challenging and most rewarding experiences that I've ever had in my entire life. So if you guys haven't listened to that episode, the episode before this one, please go back and do it. The whole story, it's all one big thing, and that's part one. So don't miss it if you haven't listened to it yet. But for this episode, we switch gears a little bit and we go more in the direction of whitetail. Because as we mentioned, Mike had a whitetail tag and I had a mule deer tag. So once my tag was filled and up until the rifle opener where Tim could hunt, the focus went to try and get Mike a whitetail with a bow. Very challenging. Not that the mule deer wasn't, but there were even fewer whitetails out there than there were muleys. So we share the struggle and the grind that the next few days following the last story we shared, the next few days held with all that, and some challenges to say the least. One in particular that we really hit hard in this story is actually a situation where we had to deal with some hunter harassment, being the recipients as such, by a poacher. Nonetheless, the sheriff was involved, the game warden was involved. Definitely a turn that we did not see this hunting trip taking, and we share it all in this story. So definitely don't want you guys to miss out. I'm not going to say anything more other than that. I'll save it for the episode. But before we get there, you guys know the drill at this point. I got to give a shout out to some of our partners that make Fall Obsession Podcast possible. The first one being Hoot Camo. I'm rocking their Buho pattern in the fleece pullover right here on the podcast video if you guys are watching. And we wore Hoot Camo on this hunt up in Colorado. Hoot may be a Texas-based company, but their patterns work everywhere. Mike and I, who both hunt in different environments and now going to a third environment in Colorado, were incredibly impressed with how well this camo did. I mean, it got me a spot and stalk mule deer, for crying out loud. So really good stuff. Encourage you guys to go check it out if you haven't already. Hoot really prides themselves in making products that are top level with the industry leaders, but at a price point that blue collar guys like you and me can afford realistically. So if you look on their website, you'll see their price points, and if you're shopping for good quality camo gear that's going to last you a long time, you'll realize that they have the best price on the market, and I can guarantee the quality of the product myself. I'll put my name behind it. It is good stuff for sure. So go shop Hoot Camo, and if you are shopping and going to place an order, use promo code FALLOBSESSION15 at checkout. That's going to get you guys a little discount, knock a few bucks off, and give Hoot a little shout out on our part. So be sure to use that code and go check them out. Podcast is also driven by Ridge Rock Hunt Company, rocking the hat. Derek and Lacey over there in Mississippi, they do a great job of setting hunters up with vetted and trusted outfitters across the country. So if you're looking for that next adventure, once in a lifetime hunt, or just trying to change it up and do something different, give Derek a call. He's going to work with you on timeline, what you want to hunt, where you want to hunt, licensing, pricing, all that good stuff, and set you up with something where he guarantees a good experience. He wouldn't be partnered with an outfitter in his network if he himself wasn't willing to go hunt with them. So he really prides himself on his name, and he puts the hard work in like we all want. So Derek Eves, Ridge Rock Hunt Company, go check him out. Podcast is also partnered with the Outdoor Call radio app. Outdoors Dan from Respect the Game TV. He has created an app that you can download on any device where you can stream hunting shows and podcasts on a loop every single day. You'll catch Fall Obsession Podcast on there on Mondays, same as our new publications, as well as tons of other shows that we all know and love. Just plays on a loop every day, so if you miss the first play of whatever show you're looking for, you can typically catch it later on in the day again. Dan also does a couple of live shows with local Midwest radio stations a week, and he shares those broadcasts on his Facebook Live if you're not local to him and can't catch it on the radio. So follow him on social media and go download the Outdoor Call Radio app today. Last thing I'll say before I turn it over to episode, if you guys represent or are partnered with your own hunting outdoor brand or organization, no matter how big or small it may be, and you're interested in promoting that brand and your name on this podcast during this sponsor segment, we'd love to talk to you. We'd love to share with you kind of our analytics and what that looks like on our end versus your end, what you guys can expect and all that. And fallobsession.com/podcast is where you guys can go to make that happen. There's a form on there that you guys can fill out that'll put you in touch with myself and our production team. We can talk details and see what we can work out. fallobsession.com/podcast. Go send us a message if you're interested. All right. Ramble session's over. We're getting over to the episode. You're listening to another Fall Obsession podcast.
Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Okay, we're back in here doing another podcast, hot on the heels of our last episode. I'm sitting here still in flat country deer camp with a couple Fall Obsession guys, Tim Burgess, Mike Teepee. Glad to be sitting back down here with you guys again. To recap, our last podcast episode went through the first 3 days of this trip, ending with me being fortunate enough to punch my tag on
a stud.
on an awesome mule deer spot and stock.
Definitely.
Great experience. We won't harp on that because that's not what this episode's about. But if you guys haven't listened to the podcast before this, talking about that mule deer hunt, I encourage you guys to go do it because this is all one story. This is all one experience, and that's part one. We're here today for part two. So we're recording here at the end of day 6 now, total, since we started this journey, and to give you guys a reference on how long we've been doing this. And obviously, Mike, the pursuit changed kind of to go in your direction after I killed mine, because you have a whitetail tag good for archery or rifle season. We still had a few days left of archery season. Rifle opens in the morning, but yours is whitetail only. So that's been the pursuit ever since then. And I'll turn it over to you and let you kind of talk about kind of our journey to try and put you on a whitetail buck these past couple days.
Yeah, so the first, like you said, first few days we were really focused on that mule deer challenge, and then you came through big and gave us some time to really try and find that needle in the haystack, I think is a good way to looking at it out here this year. This year we, Tim is saying that this is a little bit heavier mule deer population this year than general. Does sound like there's probably more mule deer every year than whitetail, but this year's even more lopsided. And so there's one pocket that we've been able to locate some whitetail the last, well, it's just 3 days now that we've been after the exact same buck. And first day was just kind of, hey, watch from a distance. Couldn't really figure a whole lot out. Just got a glimpse of this big guy. Second day was go in super early in the morning, try and get eyes on him. Got eyes on him. Sam and I went in to make a play on him that evening, and he was a no-show.
Yeah.
We don't know what happened to him that day. We don't know. I got so cold. It has been, I'm used to cold out in the Midwest, but when you're out here in this wide open country and it's windy and it's 10 degrees, 2-3 hours, you're cold.
Yeah. And the second the sun goes down, it's 15 degrees less, like in a 5-minute period.
That last hour, it gets you. Like every night. And I mean, the hoot gear has done great out here for sure. But I mean, your hands, your face, and your feet, obviously the first to go. And once for me, once those go, I'm toast at that point.
Yeah, the my feet have been pretty warm, but yeah, the hands have not, and then the face. But yeah, so. We've been trying to figure out what was the best way to get on this guy with a bow, because like you said, I had an archery tag and then it turns into a rifle tag. The date that we're filming this would be Thursday, November 30th, and tomorrow, Friday, December 1st, will be rifle tag. And so this joker better not slip up like he did today, or he's riding in the back of that truck back to Michigan.
No, he better slip up like he did today.
Well, he knows what's good for him.
That's what we want.
Yeah, we need him. We need him to play ball tomorrow because we got 2 to fill in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the other element is, like, we've been out here for 6 days now. Tim has. I know you came a day and a half later, but, I mean, Tim's been out here busting his butt to get our tags filled, and he hadn't even gotten to hunt yet. So hopefully he's one and done and big muley in the back of the truck tomorrow because he's got tag too. So.
Yeah, the nice thing is that Tim has been able to locate 2 or 3 exceptional, sound like shooter for him, mule deer. So at least he's got a couple plays in the morning that he can, hopefully get on something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got about 3 that are worth looking at for sure, and I've had really good eyes on 2 of them, and those 2 would definitely be good. And there's a good pocket south of us a little ways that definitely has another big buck. It's just we didn't see him, but we saw his harem. Mm-hmm. And
the group's too big to not have a big deer in there, man. It's a huge group of muleys,
which is crazy because it was like maybe 500-600 yards south of where Sam put his first stock on a buck, and so it's like it's the same field that he, like, on the south end of the field that he was looking at, and just south of it in the next field, which we have permission on. So it's like super funny to look at, like, oh, we were right there. We just didn't have a freaking clue. We were just there later than normal, like later than when we said these guys were out this morning. But
yeah,
well, we knew when we looked at that it had potential. Yeah. When Sam was in there, it was like, yeah, it's probably got potential to hold a couple more deer than what we seen. But yeah, fast forward to this morning, day 3 of basically the whitetail hunt for me, and was able to relocate this buck. I mean, it's honestly kind of shocking to me anyways, that we've been able to locate this deer 3 days in a row now, given the terrain that he's in.
Yeah, I wanted to talk just briefly, real quick. I wanted to hit before we get into the events of today, because that's going to be the meat of this episode. But, whitetail hunting, you and I come from a very traditionally different way of whitetail hunting, or this is the different way, I guess you could say, of whitetail hunting out here. And it's been a learning curve for both of us. And I know Tim, you know these deer, man. I know we've said that, and we've been trying to bring our other mindset of whitetail hunting in more times than not this trip, and you keep steering us back to no, this is what these deer do out here. And Mike and I have been proved wrong multiple times out here.
Multiple times.
It's nothing like.
They just don't act like any other deer that, like, I mean, I've only hunted a few other places for deer, but they don't act like other deer. They're just.
It's not, yeah.
They're weird. They move. They like moving at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's one of the weird things. Like, 10 o'clock is when you should look. And if you think, like, early morning, like, your early morning really is, like, I think sunrise is, like, 6:30-ish. Every day it's been about 6:30. Yeah. And, like, these guys are like, oh, yeah, you only need to sit till 7 to figure out what's going on. It's like, no, 7:15 minimum, realistically 8 o'clock is your early morning, like, first move. And then their second move is 10 or 11 or 12. And you can use, that second move is usually not as big of a deal, but it's usually to, like, a thick field to eat corn or something. If it's early season, they're definitely going to corn fields and you can't find them. But late season like this, they're doing something weird. And it's just, they don't act like what you guys are used to for sure. And it's been weird for me to be like, oh yeah, this is normal, and you guys are like, what? There's a deer laying out, and we had so many times today where I was like, Sam, you know there's a deer out there, and if I told you that and you didn't know that, like if you just drove up and I was like, Sam, there's a deer right there, you'd be like, you're full of crap. You are so full of crap.
Yeah.
And every time we've driven by a field, I'm like, there's probably deer out there that we just can't see. And I know one of the guys that hunts a little bit east of here, but it's pretty similar territory. He's the regional rep for Swarovski Optics. He gets 20 feet above his truck in like a lifted bed thing, and I don't know how exactly he does it, but he's got a safari topper on his truck or whatever. And he's got a like 105 millimeter lens on his Swarovski double eye barrel, and he just sits up there for like till noon, and in the cold, and has a little chair and just like looks at everything in a 5 mile radius. And he picks out what he's going to do in the afternoon after that. It's literally just sits there for 6 hours in the cold.
Different.
And you guys it's just so weird and going on that.
Yeah, if you ever get a chance, I know you've been down in Texas. So you already kind of seen that, but you get a chance to come out to the Midwest and hunt with me or just go to the Midwest and hunt in general. And you're going to be like, okay, I think I understand why these guys had a hard time wrapping their heads around what's really going on out here.
It's just it's the same animals. It's just two different worlds. And part of me has always been like, whitetails are whitetails. Whitetail's always a whitetail, but these whitetails are bred different, man. They're bred different out here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been able to hunt whitetails in the UP of Michigan. I've been able to hunt whitetails in southern Michigan, Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, and they're all the same. Yeah. It was the same concept all throughout that area. It didn't matter what time of year either. All the same things applied, given the time of year, what they were factors they were looking for, etc. And coming out here, it's so frustrating. But yet, I mean, Tim knows what he's talking about. I keep questioning him. And then I said, I don't know why I'm questioning you, because you keep proving me wrong. And so I said, I guess I should just shut up and listen. Because he's telling us what to do, and I'm just like, there's no way. No, there's no way. And then sure enough, like almost every time he tells us something, it comes true, or it comes true the next day.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to the events of today, and to get back on track with what you were saying, Mike. I mean, obviously, we just talked about how these deer are not traditional deer, and then we're fortunate, or at least I feel like we are, in an area like you mentioned that it seems like whitetails are pretty sparse. There's this one area that we both agree, even in our Midwest and Southern mindsets, like this looks like whitetail ground right here, and sure enough, the whitetails are in there, and it's the one spot we've been able to find whitetails in this trip, and you have been able to locate this buck in there 3 days in a row now. So let's get to this morning, because
so this morning I go right back into that area. It's a 200 acre, it's like just over 200 acres according to Onyx, and it's public ground. And there's some other public ground in the area. But that one particular piece, it just screams whitetail.
Yeah.
And Sam and I both said that very first time Sam seen it, he saw it without me. And then the very first time I saw it, Tim drove us through there
it was a
Tuesday.
Day after I killed mine,
11 noon, something like that.
It was like 11:58.
It was late.
Yeah.
I mean, it was later than we normally see deer. And this buck come barreling out of there. We're not so sure we didn't bump him by just literally turning the truck around. And but yeah, we got eyes on this buck, and it's like, oh wow, okay, this changes everything from this point forth. Anyways, Tim takes us by this spot right before noon on Tuesday afternoon. He's let's check one more spot. Sure enough, this buck comes busting out of there, runs across multiple fields in this property. We get enough of glass on him to realize that this is a definite shooter. And it wouldn't have mattered if we'd seen any bucks or not. He was a shooter.
Yeah,
he's a big mature deer, big 8-pointer, and so we spotted this deer Tuesday, went back in Tuesday evening to try and relocate him. Saw one white-tailed doe Went in Wednesday morning, was able to relocate him, but fast forward to today, and went back in there again trying to relocate this buck, especially after being frustrated, thinking that Sam and I had a good play on him last night. Watched him go into his bedroom. It was the same area he came out of the day before, so it made sense. We sat there all night and nada. We tried a little grunting, we tried a little rattling, and because he was super aggressive Wednesday morning towards this little 6-point that was in there, I mean, just super aggressive, running him off every chance he got. I bet I watched him run that guy 10 times out.
Yeah, no reason to think he wasn't guarding a hot doe or something.
A hot doe or just super temper, he just super aggressive. And, we thought, hey, we get in there close. And from what we could tell, we were 150, 200 yards from where he had been, bedded. Well, he didn't show. So this morning, go in there, not really sure what to think.
Yeah, and then last night, sorry to cut you off, but we were like, yeah, we need permission all around this. So we called got as much, literally, basically every single touching piece around it, all four, between public on the east side. We got permission on the south, the southwest, the west, and the north's public. And then, the very northwest corner across the road is the only place we don't have permission.
Which is just a wide open cornfield. But, doesn't mean they won't go out there.
Yeah.
But Tim's been, throughout this whole story and today especially, Tim's been networking with his family and everything. And obviously we want to be sure that we're hunting legally and pursuing these deer legally. And so Tim's doing an outstanding job of ensuring that any ground that we are pursuing an animal on or setting foot on is squared away and good to go. So, and doing it on the fly sometimes too, which is awesome.
Yeah, we got.
It's definitely nice having those connections.
Yes.
Hell, we got 5 permissions today.
Today alone, yeah, on probably 2,000 acres.
On 5 minutes notice. Anyways,
so yeah, I get in there this morning, and I located what looked like a nice big doe. About 20 minutes before daylight, 15 minutes before daylight, I was just in the truck, just using the spot and glass and everything, and just trying to see if I could find something. And it's been just so bright out here this week. That's not helping us. We've had a bright full moon, snow on the ground. It's not making the hunting any easier because these deer can spend so much time on their feet in the evening after daylight all the way until the morning. It's dang near daylight all night.
Yeah.
And so I spotted this doe first thing in. I thought, okay, marked, in my mind where she was at, and just putting miles on the truck trying to find something. Find this buck or another buck. And I call these guys, and they'd found several mule deer for Tim in another location, and then I found some more mule deer for Tim, just spots to keep an eye on. And we were game planning because we were thinking, hey, you know what, we're gonna go do some pheasant hunting. We did a little bit yesterday. Let's call it an early day, do some pheasant hunting, shoot the rifles, got some things we'd like to do around the house. Well, little did we know, none of that was going to happen. Absolutely none of it was going to happen.
We weren't even going to see the house.
Dude, we didn't see the house till after dark. Left in the dark, came back in the dark. I told him, I said, okay, we'll meet up in 45 minutes back at the house. And, we both had a little drive to get to the house, plus a couple more spots we want to look at. I said, well, you know what? I'm going to pull a Tim Burge here, and I'm going to take one more pass around this 200-acre parcel that we've been seeing these deer on. And sure enough, I come down the hill, and right where I had thought I had seen that nice doe in the morning, this buck standing within 10, 20 yards in the tall CRP, looks right at me, and he beds down. And I'm like, okay, call the guys. Hey, let's get a game plan. We get a game plan together, which involved me using the wind to my advantage and using the topography to my advantage. And there was a dry creek bottom that didn't have any water in it at the time. And we were able to drop me off, go do a little loop around, went down in the dry creek bottom, went under the bridge, of this road the road that I had been driving on. Went under this bridge, popped out of the bridge. The guys, they went to go get a vantage point to see if I did potentially bump this deer on the way in, where he may go, so we could relocate him.
Yeah. Well, on that too, we had to change our plan, which we'll get to how that didn't help you.
Mm-hmm.
But we're going to where we think we have a vantage point.
We've been sitting in this. Go ahead.
No, it's just we get there and there's a guy pulling in to hunt some pheasants on another piece of property neighboring it, kind of where we wanted to go.
Walk-in.
It's walk-in,
yeah.
So it's like it's everybody's game.
Yeah, anybody can go in there, and so we're like, crap, we can't park here. So we're like, we don't want to drive past where Mike is, obviously, because that could mess things up. So we came up with the idea to go all the way around and try to have it some sort of outlook from the north.
Mm-hmm.
And then we ran into the frustration we've had multiple times this week where we find out that roads that are on a map aren't actual roads, which made us go even farther out of our way, which I figure I'd stick that in there as far as where Tim and I were while what's about to go down was happening. So, but yeah.
Yeah, so I had just gotten under the bridge, and like they're saying, I'm under the influence that they're not that far away. I'm under the influence that they're
mile and a
half a mile to a mile and a half, depending on where they're at. I didn't know exactly. We had talked of a couple different locations that they might try and get vantage point. And all of a sudden, I hear this truck driving from the north, and I was just out in that creek ditch about 20 yards from that bridge, from the road. At that time, I hear this truck coming real slow, and I thought, well, it must be the guys. There's no traffic around here. Must be the guys. So as it gets closer, I turn and look, and it's not them. And it's this white pickup truck. And this guy looks down, because he's clearly looking for deer. And he looks down, sees me, eyes get huge, slams on his brakes. We look at each other for a minute. I'm thinking, okay, I don't know what he's thinking, but I don't know why he just slammed down his brakes to look at me. Can clearly tell I'm deer hunting. Got my bow in my hand, got camo, walking through here, sneaking through. So he proceeds to slowly take off. He goes up to the south of me, and I can hear him turn around. So I grab my phone, because I'm just like, this dude's going to ruin my hunt. So I start calling Tim, which I think I just called him first because, this is where he's, we're in his area.
Right.
I should have called Sam first because Tim didn't have his phone on him because he was driving. And so Tim don't answer. I hang up. I call Sam. I'm like, where are you guys at? Oh, well, we're like 3 miles away because we got on one of these roads that says it's here and it's not here. I'm like, I need you guys here now. I got a white truck about to blow this entire operation up.
Yeah.
He's staring at me. He's turning around, and he's getting ready to come back. I need you guys to let this guy know we've got permission to hunt this and get him out of here. He's gonna blow this. This deer's only bedded 150 yards off the road, maybe 200 at most, in some CRP, real tall grass, and I'm like, these deer aren't going to tolerate this.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't you know, they're 3 miles away because of the road mapping. They got turned around. They said, well, we'll hurry back as fast as we can. I said, okay. Well, he drives back by me heading to the north, and I didn't even look at him. I just kept going on about my stalk. I actually kind of sped my stalk up because I'm thinking, this dude's going to ruin this for me.
Mm-hmm.
Sure enough, I hear him go back down to the north, turn around again, and pull back up towards me and then stop. And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Well, instead of focusing on him, I'm trying to focus on these deer because I'm almost panicking, thinking I have to make this happen now.
Right.
Because this dude's just going to ruin this whole thing for me. So I advanced like another 20 yards. I kind of come up that creek ditch a little bit to get a little bit better viewpoint. And I'm looking through the binoculars, trying to see if I can find any antler tines in the grass. And as I'm scanning, I started scanning from my left to my right. And as I get to my right, all of a sudden, there's the big guy staring at that white truck.
Mm-hmm.
And then as I keep going, I catch movement. And now there's a 6-pointer staring at me. So as soon as I dropped the binoculars, they bowled out of there 100 miles an hour, and I turn around and I look, and this guy is out of his truck watching these deer with binoculars, and he's only, I don't know, 80 to 120 yards from me at that point.
And he's got all his doors open too.
Yeah, got all his doors open.
Being obnoxious.
Making noise. I could hear him opening and closing doors. I was afraid he was just going to shoot the deer right off the road with a rifle or something. I didn't know what else to think.
Right.
What are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
Like, I'm on private property here. It's not public. We have permission.
You're bow hunting.
I'm bow hunting. It's bow season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
There's no rifle weapons in season.
Yeah.
Well, for elk there is, but
not here.
Out here, yeah.
There's not any elk out here.
Not any. Yeah, nobody's elk hunting out here. Trust me, not right now. And so right then, I hear another truck coming. I look up and it's you guys. It's Sam, Tim. I'm like, crap, we gotta go. I think I called you guys. The deer are running. He just busted them out. Hurry up. I literally run the short distance back to the road, jump in the truck, and we go by, and this guy passes us. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
he got past us.
So we haul butt, and we're trying, like, we see the deer coming out, and they're actually going toward the dude that was pheasant hunting that next property over.
Yeah, dang near run old boy over. You can tell he was shook.
Yeah, he had no idea what was going on. That poor guy.
These deer coming at a head of steam for like about a mile. Like, they've been hauling butt for like they're shot out of a cannon, and he's a mile away, and they did not slow down.
Well, and then they picked the third buck up on the way somehow. There was only two to begin with, and then all of a sudden there's three, and we're like, where'd that come from?
Yep.
But yeah, three of them running right. I mean, honestly, the whole day might have been a little bit different had that guy not been there pheasant hunting, because we don't know.
They would have ran out that backside.
They might have definitely changed what they were planning on doing.
They did a hard right to go south.
As soon as they seen him,
yeah. They would have just kept going southeast like they were, mostly east. But as soon as they saw him, they booked it straight south.
Yeah. And he stopped and looked, and then he sees us pull up, and then the white truck fly by.
And his dog was like trying to circle to find a bird, just freaking out. And I was like, oh no,
poor guy.
I was thinking his dog was about to find a bird as we were pulling by at pretty good speed. So we're trying to figure out where these deer are going, and like I know if we get to this road, we can at least get onto the same road, like the same north-south they're going, because the next road is 2 miles down if we miss this one. So it's really important we make this road with them either semi-close to us on either side so we can follow, like get a general idea. So if we got to go 2 miles down and come around, we're going to be 4 miles away from them by the time we can try to relocate them again. So
and they covered ground.
Yeah, they're moving. The whitetails out here will not stop running once they start running until they feel safe, and that's usually about 3 miles.
Like either safe or get tired. Judging by these guys.
Yeah, it's usually around a 3 mile run that they just don't stop.
That's probably pretty close to how far they went before they really started.
Probably just shy.
Yeah,
2.5.
Well, they did like basically a mile to him, and then about another 1.5 miles to get to where we found him again. But yeah.
So we see this white truck, so we stopped to watch these deer, like they're saying, and this guy that just ruined my hunt comes flying by us chasing these deer, and we're like, what in the heck are you doing?
What is this guy doing?
Yeah, what are you doing, dude? Like, you can't tell me that you've got permission for all this, that we've got permission for, and now all of a sudden you're acting like this is your deer you're hunting that you found, where if you hadn't seen me walking in there with the bow in the first place, you would have never turned around.
He would have never known that deer was in there.
Exactly.
That deer didn't reveal himself.
Exactly. He would have never known. He wouldn't have turned around, and who knows what would have happened.
Yeah.
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. I mean, maybe I should have backed up and hid underneath the bridge because I didn't know who it was.
You're hunting on private with permission.
Wrong.
Yeah, you got private on.
No. Yeah.
I didn't realize that the guy was going to react like that. It was almost like, he was mad that I was on deer.
Yeah.
So we relocate these deer, like we said, probably 2.5, 3 miles away, and this guy's, he's all over him. we're watching from a distance, and he's going back and forth around the block. I don't know if he's lost them, trying to get a better vantage point, what.
Well, they went into the wheat stubble, and they bedded in that wheat stubble, and so that's when we were like, we're going to make a play.
Yeah, but he was just.
Yeah,
before that, he started out south of us or north of us, then went past us to the south, and then stopped again, and then a little bit later, then he's on the other side.
Yeah, I'll let you talk about your stalk, but he started, like, for a while, he could see the deer, but he was parked about 600 yards behind us, farther down the road.
To the south,
just watching them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when Tim started to be like, hey, this is not cool, and he started, making the phone calls that he needed to make, and Tim can talk about that. But the guy, when you started your stalk, the guy left, and we're like, okay, he's done with this. And then about 45 minutes later, he shows up on the opposite road, and we're like, are you freaking kidding me?
On the other side of the block.
This guy is causing problems.
And with the way that the terrain is out here, yes, it's rolly, and so you can't see everything because there's enough topography in there, but you can get into certain vantage points, and you can see across these blocks.
Yeah.
And you can, with some good binoculars, you can pick out some of this game. And so I went in on this stalk after we realized that, hey, they're acting like they want to go back north where they came from, and this is like the best stalkable type of field that we're going to have probably in any kind of decent proximity to be able to get in there and make a stalk.
Yeah, because we lucked out and we got permission on this piece. Then it was like just south of it wasn't going to happen, and then like there, so it was like they were on like roughly 160 by itself. The 160 south of it, so 160 acres, 160 south of it wasn't going to happen. Then there was like an L that kind of connected to the bottom of that 160. That's like, so it's like four something. That wasn't going to happen. And then it was like go down some more, and we had quite a bit of permission if they went down like another mile plus. And then if they went down 2 miles plus, we have entire permission.
Yeah.
So it was like this, we have this spot, and then we kind of were checkerboarded like where we were, like here, and then north of us we had like one more piece that was like in walk-in, and then they'd have to go back another mile north this way. So it's like we want them here, or we want them to go south, just because of the way we're at. Like, this is where you can make your move. It's not the best place to stalk. I mean, you're crawling on wheat stubble that's like not even knee high. Was it about knee high?
It was an average of 24 to 30 inches. It was better looking once you got in it than it actually looked from the road. I didn't even think it was that tall from the road, and then I got in there and I was like, okay, I can work with this.
Yeah.
And there was some topography to the field also. Like, we had to go quite a bit south of it to even see the deer because of the big hill that was out by the road. So I was able to just stand up. You guys dropped me off where we thought we were in line with the deer. You couldn't see, so you were just guessing. And we were pretty close. We were within 100 yards probably, north and south. And you guys dropped me off. You guys went back to get a vantage point, and then I started walking in. And I was able to walk the first, 400 or 500 yards anyways before I started to crest that hill and feel like I was exposing myself. I would check in with you guys a little bit here and there, and, hey, are they up? Are they moving? Nope, still laying there. Okay, or yeah, they're feeding, but they're not moving. And so as I come up, getting close to where the hill's starting to flatten out, I look out and boom, there's that big buck. And then I look to his right and I see that little 6-pointer. I'm like, okay, all right, I need to move further north because I'm too far south. And so I moved further north, got on one of these tractor tires or combine tire tracks where it really matted down the stubble so you can actually get in there, because the stubble rows were only like 6 to 8 inches wide approximately. And you just, with the snow on the ground, it's crunchy, everything's dead, and just not ideal stalking conditions. But if you got on one of those tire tracks, it was way better.
Yeah, as long as they weren't on the same one as you could see.
Yep.
I mean, you can see really far.
Because then you can see really far down, hundreds of yards, hundreds.
You can see most of the field across down a tire track. As long as you're in that and low and slow, like you're golden, because you have all this around you to protect you in there.
Mm-hmm.
And like unless you like just get too high, like they can't see you.
Yeah.
So I even told you as soon as we get started, I forget if you remember this, but I was like, get in a tire track, low and slow, and then you just need to make this happen right here.
Well, I
because this is
remember
the
that
best
part.
spot you're gonna get.
And then you said your knees are going to hurt, but you'll be okay. And the knees are still hurting. So, because the ground was just so hard and frosted from those tires, they obviously combined that when the ground was a little softer. And so now those markings that they left have frozen rock solid this morning. But so I actually ended up getting in one of those tire tracks that small 6-pointer was in. And I looked down there and I'm like, this is a no-go.
Yeah.
I can see this dude from like several hundred yards clear as day in one of those paths. So I ended up backing back up to the south. And the way those 2 bucks bedded was there was only one row of tire tracks in between the 2. So not very much room to work with. But I ended up belly crawling and then also crawling on my knees for probably 400 yards, maybe 500 yards. Because every time I thought I was close, I would keep going and realize I wasn't. Like I can remember texting you guys saying, yeah, I'm probably under 3. And then I'd go like 100 yards and be like, I might now be at 3.
Yeah.
And so, that was interesting to realize the depth perception out there where you have no landmarks whatsoever. It's just a sea of wheat. And you're down low, so that messes with you too. But this stalk ended up taking, I watched the time, it was like an hour and 45 minutes that I was in there. And all along I told these guys, I said, if I don't get this buck, it's because of that little 6-pointer. I said, he is bedded up on a higher rise than all these other deer. And I could see his ears, I could see his antlers, I could see like the top of his head without trying.
Yeah. And there was another, just to clarify, so those 2 were pretty close together. Say
they were maybe 50 yards apart.
They were pretty close, but they were maybe 2/3 of the way up the field to the north.
Yeah.
And then there was the third little spiker guy Spike Buck was probably on the bottom quarter of the field and a little bit more west of where they were. So there's a third deer in this field we have to kind of worry about in case getting spooked, not really from Mike, but from anybody else around. Either us getting too close. We were about from him, we were probably about a quarter to a third of a mile, me and Sam in the truck. And I was like, as long as we don't, and if we backed up 30 yards, the hill hit us where the truck wasn't even visible to the field. So like one time we had to back up and take a leak. And I was like, man, we got to do this now before Mike gets any closer. We got to take it. Needs some help taking care of business. So, we did that once, but yeah, it's the little guy we had to be more careful of and whatever else was going on around. So we kept our eyes kind of on what's coming, what's going, are any trucks coming and all that kind of stuff where Mike was really focused on those 2 north guys.
Oh yeah. That's all I could focus on. And so I start getting in close. And it was kind of frustrating because I'm trying to get a yardage marker on these deer. And I'm doing everything I can. I'm cleaning the lens off. I'm trying to figure out, is it dirty? What's going on? And I'm not getting a range. I can't get a range on anything except for, 10 yards away, 20 yards away. And I was just like, well, I'm just going to keep going. And I ended up I just kept going. I ended up getting to where I thought I was like 150, 200 yards away. And I kind of kneeled up higher. And that's when you guys could see me for the first time. And the big buck, he was bedded in a phenomenal spot. Like I had to get on my knees and extend myself with binoculars to even think about seeing the top of his antlers. Because he was just over this little tiny rise, just enough that when he was bedded, you couldn't see nothing.
Like this much.
And that was with trying. Like I had to really stretch out.
Yeah.
Where that little 6-pointer, you didn't have to try to see him.
You saw shoulders up.
I'm on my knees, barely even up there, and I could still see his antlers and ears almost the whole way until I got closer. I actually went into a little dip, and then it made it so I could only see the top of his antlers. But those guys then spotted me, which I'm sure from your point of view, it looked like I was fairly close.
I was
Kind
thinking
of like
about-
that depth perception.
It was definitely farther, and we thought you might have been a little offline with them too. We thought you were closer, like north south to us than they were.
Yeah.
So that
where
was
I was right in line with
yeah.
them.
It looked like from our side that you were probably, I would guess, will you say 100 yards closer to us than them?
A little bit too far south.
Yeah, I mean, y'all know it's so hard, like you pointed out, to judge the depth perception out here looking into these fields. And when you got a hunter and a deer you're trying to look at, we talked about that. Y'all
With
talked
your
about
deer,
that
yeah.
last episode. It's just, it's so tricky.
Yeah. But I mean, I knew because I had eyes on them, and that was the nice thing about this stalk was I was able to have eyes on these deer from several hundreds of yards out, and I was able to get lined up with them. And once I was able to do that, I was like, okay, it's all on me. And I got in there, and I was probably around 85 to 100 yards from those two north bucks. And all of a sudden, I go to look up, and the big one's standing. And so I just dropped. I just hunkered down, and I sent you guys a text like, is he leaving? Did he bed back down? I just seen he was up. And you're like, well, he's actually moving away from you. He's going further south. I'm like, crap. So I decided to get up and expose myself a little bit. And he was so focused on looking in your guys' direction, he didn't even see me out of his peripheral. And I was able to get a range on him then once he got done moving away from me at 135 where he rebedded. And I'm like, crap. Because I can see clearly that this 6-pointer that he was in line with is way closer than that. And the problem is out there in that stubble, you can't, in my opinion, it would not have been a smart play to go down the regular stubble rows. I would have made so much noise with all this crunchy snow, and I would have been knocking down like 2 rows of stubble with how wide I am going down those little narrow paths. Where on the tires, I was still brushing the outside edges of the stubble, but I wasn't like mowing it down.
Yeah, there's a lot less noticeable movement.
And the snow, for some odd reason, was almost all gone inside the tire tracks. Unlike,
well, the sun can get to it better.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense. More sun could get to it. But it was just, that was my play. And I'm like, I got to just stay on here and just hope I can get close enough, or he's going to turn and come back north. And I was able to gain more ground, and I knew I got up in there close, and I told you guys, I said, I'm going to try and get closer, but I think maybe I can get 10 yards closer, and then this 6 point's going to blow the hunt. And sure enough, I made it 5 yards. And I look up, and his antlers have now turned from facing straight south to facing right at me, and all I see is antlers facing me. So I hunker down, lay down, just, hey, maybe he'll, come off of alert if he doesn't hear anything for a couple minutes. Didn't happen. Next thing I know, he's standing up, looks right at me, blows out of there. Sure enough, the big guy blows out of there, and then they run off to the south. And the whole time that I'm watching this go on to the south, I'm watching that guy in that white truck to the west of us watch me. Mm-hmm. He's watching this all unfold from the other side of the road, and I had been communicating with Tim and Sam, and that's when the whole time I'm making this hour and 45-minute stalk, you're on the phone trying to get a hold of
Parks and Wildlife,
the
Sheriff's
Department,
everybody
for hunter harassment.
Yeah, and the guy's inching up. Like, it's one thing if he had been parked like a field away, because he's like from where the field goes, he's a half a mile from Mike, like from the west edge of this field on the west. He's a half mile west from there. Mm-hmm. But so at first when he parked, he's like maybe a quarter mile from the south edge of that field, and we're like, that's about what me and Sam are, and it's like, that's fair. Like, you're just watching these deer and whatever, and at that point you're not in the play zone, and you're not in the hunting. Well, he had inched up in as close as he could get to the field, and actually pulled into the shoulder. Like, there's not a shoulder. He's pulled into the field, like on that edge, and had been getting out of his truck and not making a ton of noise on purpose, but definitely like any incidental noise he could make. You can argue maybe it was intentional, maybe it'd take a leak every 5 minutes, but if that's your problem, that's your problem. But, just doing every extra thing he could do and getting, he had driven even with the deer on the north end. I don't think he knew that buck with that little fork he was on the south end. Otherwise, I don't think he would have drawn it. I think he would have tried to maybe make that one move sooner. Because that one I think would have jumped a lot quicker than the big guys did. But, he was getting involved, putting extra pressure on the situation for sure. Because the deer would look over at his truck or at our truck pretty often, and ours never moved. There's one time we backed up, like I said, take a leak, and we were back up on the hill again, a third of a mile from the south end of the field. So from the big bucks, we're more like at 2/3 of a mile from them, like really nowhere close. Plus the yardage into the field, maybe even farther than that. But he got as close as he pretty much legally could in there, trying to make things,
and all this on the heels of the first encounter this morning,
which was 100% his fault.
Yeah,
blowing.
Yeah.
That was so not right. You see somebody walking in with a bow and arrow, you don't turn around, park, get out of your truck, open all your doors, and basically spook the game away because you're jealous.
Yeah.
I don't know what else there is.
Yeah.
So yeah, that stalk ended up being a failed stalk. Hindsight, that was the best opportunity outside of that very first one that we'd have at this deer. And after we regrouped, we were able to get a local sheriff on site after miscommunication over counties, and apparently the Parks and Wildlife had something more important that they were working with, like almost 2 hours away, so they weren't going to make it over there. And this sheriff shows up. He's a local sheriff, and he knows Tim's family. And so we tell him what's going on. He wants to take a written statement. So we basically abandoned the hunt at this point.
Yeah, we took about 45 minutes off between going to get your truck, regrouping, talking to the sheriff. Between 30 minutes and 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But all this time, so the deer when they left, when they spooked,
they go straight south.
They keep going south.
Yeah.
Which ultimately is the direction we want them to go.
Yeah.
But while we're sitting here with the sheriff, as soon as the deer blew south, the white pickup truck pulls out, leaves, and starts heading down the road, the same road that we're on at the time, following these deer south. Yep. And that's when, like you just said, we're out of hunt mode here for half of an hour talking to the sheriff.
Yeah. So I'm telling Tim, I don't want to talk to the sheriff. I want to get eyes on these deer. And Tim's like, no, he's going to need to talk to you. You're the hunter. I said, I know. Okay.
Yeah. We just need to get this,
reluctantly
get this cleaned up and hopefully taken care of.
We don't need this crap.
Yeah.
We don't need this guy out here ruining hunts.
Yeah.
And so we, like you said, we regroup, talk to the sheriff. We explain everything to him in as detailed as we possibly can. The vehicle description, everything else. These guys were able to get his license plate number, which was huge. And so he ran that, said, okay, gave us some information on that. And, we told him, we said, hey, last we saw him was on this road we're on, and he was heading straight south. It was, last we saw him, he was probably 1.5 miles or so from here because we lost sight. And, once we got done, we were like, okay, we're going to go try and relocate these deer. And, he's like, okay, I'm going to go down to the south, see if that old boy's still down there. This is the way it kind of seemed from our conversation. Well, we split up, and they turn and go around to go on to that other side of the block, on the west side of the block. I'm going straight south on the east side of the block where we watch those deer.
Yeah, we're back in hunt mode now.
Back in hunt mode. Can we find these deer now? We just sacrificed, approximately 30 minutes to take care of somebody that's not following the rules. And sure enough, I'm going, and I get like 1 mile down the road, 1.5 miles down the road, and I come up over this hill, and there's the freaking white truck. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. So I look up, and he sees me, and he literally starts...
He's out of his truck.
He's out of his truck. He is out in a wide open field. At the time that I saw him, he was already walking back towards his truck, and he was probably 50 yards from his truck at that time. It was a good little poke. And he starts running for his truck, and I can clearly see a deer decoy in his right arm and a rifle in his left. And I freak
Poacher.
out, dude. I'm like, you
Poacher.
have got to be kidding me. Behind me is the cop that we just talked to, and he's just kind of putzing along. He didn't really seem like he was in a big hurry. I mean, I understand we're in dirt roads and out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm seeing all this unfold. Well, I know he can't see all this because I just crested the hill to expose this. He's a quarter mile anyways behind me. So I roll my window down, and I'm just frantically waving, like trying to get this officer's attention to say, like, please speed up and fly by me and catch this, you know what.
Yeah. And the guy, as soon as the guy saw you, he picked up the pace too.
Well, no,
Yeah.
the poacher?
The poacher.
Oh, as soon as he seen me, I literally ran.
Yeah.
And it ended up being a very older gentleman, out of shape and everything else. So it wasn't like you or I sprinting across a wide open field or Tim
Right.
sprinting across a wide open field. This guy was, it took him a minute.
Yeah.
It took him a minute. And so the cop, by the time the cop had got there, he was already throwing stuff in the truck and still had doors hanging wide open. So the cop pulls him over, or not, I'm sorry, doesn't pull him over, pulls up to him. I go around the whole scenario because I'm thinking, good, this guy's got what he's got coming.
He's done.
He's done.
Hopefully, at least the situation's dealt with for today.
He's lost his rifle. He's gotten a ticket. He might have lost
at the minimum. He could be going to jail.
Yeah, he might have lost hunting privileges, whether permanently or
At least
over the next few years.
Yeah.
He might be taking a ride in the back of that truck to jail for the day. Those are what's running through our collective minds as I call you guys and
Right.
give you an
Tell
update
us
on
what's
what I
going
just
on.
saw. So we're like, all right, sweet. The a-hole's out of the situation. Now we can hunt the deer.
Right.
Now we can relocate these and make a plan and figure out. We've got a lot of permission here. There's one or two places we don't, and we can just kind of make a plan on like where are they going, and just like, hey, it's like at this point it's only like
Oh, super
9 o'clock,
early.
8:30, 9 o'clock.
It was,
Later. No,
th-
it would have been after 10 because I went in on the stalk at 8 and I was done at 9:45.
Yeah,
I
okay,
looked
so
at
yeah.
my phone,
Well,
so it would have been a
still-
little after
it
10.
was about the time we normally think about heading back for one more lap and then going for breakfast.
But it was still plenty early.
Yeah, it was still a very early day still.
And you guys actually picked the deer up running away from where I watched him run up out of the field. They were on the other side of the block by then.
Yeah.
But you guys, oh, there they are.
we found him.
And you guys found them. And so we were able to relocate these deer. They ended up going to the next block, which it's crazy if you haven't been out here and the way we're talking, they're running from block to block. It's just so wide open. They cover this ground in no problem. They cover this ground in no time. This is not anything like what I'm used to. And so we're watching, we get eyes on them, and wouldn't you know it, they end up in a field that we can't hunt.
Yeah, the short version is they held up in this little 320 acre piece
that we couldn't hunt.
And it's corn stubble, so it's
Yeah.
not, there's a lot of food. There's no cover.
A little bit of topography.
They're down in a bowl. And as the day started going, I started getting permission on every piece around it.
Literally every piece around it.
We have everything that touched. We have the section that touches it. There's a piece of walk-in that touches it. The section to the directly to the east, we have that entire section, the entire 640, minus a tiny bit where a house is on the very north edge wouldn't have been in play. The section to the south of it, we have that entire 640. We've got the 320 directly to the west. We've got a couple other pieces touching here. There's a hog farm on the corner to the southwest, but we have everything beyond that hog farm, which is like maybe 30 acres, and they're gonna just blow through that because it's a commercial development building basically. Like they ain't gonna hang out there more than running through if they even go that way. So it's like we have everywhere they can go.
We just don't have where they are.
Yeah, we just don't have this one spot. And we called and. The guy's gonna hunt it this weekend and next weekend, and great for him. And we're like, hey, there's a nice buck and two smaller bucks on your place right now, and if they're there this weekend, good luck, and if not, maybe we'll get them before then.
Yeah, and when I talked to the mother of the landowner, I told her, I said, okay, I said, I just didn't know if we could even just maybe do it one time, go in there today and that's it. And she said, no. I said, hey, thank you for your time, appreciate it. You have a nice day. And so what happened was we watched these deer, and in the process of getting permission, because this took, this didn't happen in a blink of an eye, but, it happened fairly quick. But in the process, we're sitting there watching these deer, trying to decide, okay, can we make a play on them? Can we get permission? And in the meantime, we haven't seen the white car. We haven't seen the cop. As far as we know, the cop's still taking care of the white truck, the guy in the white truck. Well, how long do you guys think it was? Was it 20 minutes?
I was going to say 30, long. Maybe 30 tops.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe 30 tops. All of a sudden, I ended up seeing him, and I said, oh, guys, well, I guess he ain't going to jail, because the truck just left and is heading north back the way we came from, and the cop is heading south. And we're like, okay, well, hopefully he at least got a citation or something else like that, and we're not going to have no problems. So we forget all about this guy in this white truck, and we're just like, okay, let's just focus on getting access to this ground, or watching this deer till he gets somewhere we can hunt.
Yeah, and it took a while for us to actually talk to this one landowner. We hadn't talked to him
over an hour.
It's probably close to two hours.
2 hours.
The rest
sat there forever.
The rest of the stuff probably took
under half an hour.
Yeah, I can say we had all the rest of the permissions, and some of it we had previous that I had asked for to have, and then I knew a couple people, so I just quickly called one and had some other connections called. We had them all in a half hour, except the one that we needed the most and ended up, for good reason, didn't get.
Mm-hmm.
Took us a while to get a hold of the person to find out for sure the deal there.
Yeah,
which is fine.
Yeah, it is what it is.
If it's your ground, you don't want people hunting it. Great. That's your right, and there's no reason we should have any entitlement to that. Just nice to hear and know formally, so we don't have to keep playing phone tag.
Yeah, we played phone tag for so long, we burnt some hours, but where they were first bedded up on that piece, you could have made a play on them. I was able to get around a couple different times on the block and see where they were at for basically most of that 2 hours while we were waiting, and they were in a favorable position to try and get you into borderline archery range, and it just didn't happen. It wasn't meant to be. So we just started thinking of all the other options that we had, and we didn't have any because they were staying on that piece. So we just went back to, hey, we got that 320 to the north between walk-in and private. They came from the north. We think they're going to want to head back to the north. That's where they live. And so I just went and sat up for like the last two and a half hours to the north of them, where we actually had access.
And you actually went out before that, because then I ran home at like 1-ish and was like, dude, we're hungry. Like,
yeah,
I ran home and made everybody lunch and ran back, and Mike came back to the truck and got lunch, and then you went back out about 2:30.
Well, because they'd gotten up and moved around 1-ish, and they started heading north, and we're like, okay, I think that's going to work. That's our play. We need to try and cut them off. They're going to try and head back home.
Yeah, as soon as they cross into our permission ground.
As soon as it's game on. And so I went in there, and then they bedded right back down after 10, 15 minutes. And then, like Tim said, he come back with lunch, which we were all extremely happy for that. And so we took a little lunch break for about an hour, and we were trying to decide when I should go back out. And we were like, 2:30, 3 o'clock, I'll go back out. Well, it was like, just after 2:30, they got up and started moving north, and we're like, screw it. So
we need to go now.
we need to go now, because they, as we seen this morning, they can cover ground. And so we got in there, and Sam dropped me off. I hiked back in there a good little ways, and I wasn't able to lay eyes on them on my way in to try and cut them off. But I thought, hey, if they come this way, I'm somewhat in the game, right?
Yep.
Well, they ended up, after a long wait,
they had bedded down. Sorry, I'm going to explain so they could understand why you couldn't see it. From where Mike was, he's up on this hill, probably about 500 to 600 yards from them would be my guess. They're down in this valley, but with an uphill side this way. With the hill kind of goes like this with a curve. Where he's probably vertically about 100, maybe 150 feet above him. Not like insane, but pretty heavy.
Definitely above him.
Yeah, and then this little hill's probably only about maybe 10, 15 feet, but it's enough where you can't see down to where they are. And all we're seeing is like the 6 points heads up. The big buck's taking a nap. Either heads on the ground or he's doing something. And the spiker, we lost track of him when they did this last little thing. We hadn't seen the spiker. When we finally saw him, it had probably been close to 2 hours or maybe over 2 hours.
Yeah, he stayed low.
But yeah, so went in there, thought, hey, this is our only play. And mind you, this whole time, the white truck's there.
Yeah, I was going to circle back to that real quick because no sooner had the sheriff left.
Well, it was a little while.
Yeah.
It was at least a half hour.
Yeah,
True.
He might have been a half hour.
So he left.
Yeah,
White,
I left that part out.
White truck shows back up, once again eyeballing these deer and watching us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the sheriff had left all of us his personal contact info.
That's when I called
Yeah,
him.
you reached back out like, hey, man.
I called him. I'm like, hey, Mr. Officer, and this is so-and-so, and we just talked. And I said, hey, so what's going on? And he's like, well, what do you mean? Are you having problems with the guy? I said, well, he's back. He's sitting here watching the deer. He's like, oh, he told me he was going to go home. I'm like, okay, but, why is he out here? He should be in trouble. Well, he said you did everything wrong, and you didn't have any permission, and you were the one chasing the deer away from him. And Parks and Wildlife are on the way out to take care of it. And I'm like, okay. I don't understand. He just ran off of a road with a decoy and a rifle. Well, I didn't see a rifle. I seen a bow and arrow. But I also didn't check his truck, he says. I said, we told you when he was driving around, we seen the rifle in the front seat.
Yeah, because Tim and I, we passed him one time.
When you got the license plate.
When we got plate numbers and we saw a rifle.
Yeah, there was a rifle in the passenger seat.
And we told him before he had the encounter with the guy that he had a rifle in the front seat. Don't you look for a rifle? I understand you're not a DNR, you're not a Parks and Wildlife.
And we're not trying to question this officer or anything like that. It's just
frustrating.
Unfortunate situation.
It was an unfortunate situation, and I mean, as we learned later, because Tim's family has been in this area for generations. They know a lot of people around here. They know all the happenings. To put it delicately, this guy has a reputation in this area, is what we learned later. And as far as hunting and everything, it's
I wouldn't call it hunting.
Yeah, it's not hunting.
Poaching.
And, yes. So to have maybe, I don't know what his antics are. Maybe you have a bow and arrow in your truck for your cop out or whatever it is, but it became clear to us that he's not in the right. He's not out there for the right reasons. And even though he's claiming that he has permissions and everything, we know that he doesn't have permission where these deer are. Mm-hmm. And we were all very, very confident that the only reason that this buck wasn't killed by a rifle that day was simply because we stayed on the deer ourselves the whole day. Because if we had not been, this guy knew, he's watching us and watching this deer the entire day. He knows that we're committed and we're not leaving. And probably for the first half of the day, he was just waiting for us to give up and leave. Mm-hmm. Because I'm confident that once we did that, he would have busted out a rifle, shot the deer, load him up, and peel out.
On his way.
But at that point, and where we're getting into what are we going to expect tomorrow, is the fact that he held it out the whole day, which makes me think, man, he's gonna be back. He was making sure that we didn't kill a deer. That he couldn't do a thing about it if we did.
No, because we were going about it the right way.
Especially when we're doing everything legally. He couldn't do one thing about it if we did, but he wants to know if that deer's still in there tomorrow for his own reasons.
Well, and it was before we even made the attempt that we did the last couple hours, he was over on the west side of the block, and those 3 bucks started going over to cross that west road to go to permission property that we had permission for. And he purposely pulled up and went back and forth as they were trying to get around his truck.
Yeah.
To make sure they would not go across the road. It's not like he knew we had permission for that, but he clearly knew we didn't have permission for where they were because we hadn't went in on them. Because they were in a stalkable spot, like I said, for a while. And the fact that he roadblocked them from going across the road was irritating, because it's like, dude, like, if those deer would have went over there, we could have been able to go after them. And that would have been early on. That was like
11.
That was before,
maybe 11, 12. It was before I went to lunch.
It was definitely before you went for lunch.
Yeah.
And so
me and Sam were still parked on that south side of the main county road there, looking back north. And we couldn't see a whole lot from where we were, but it was more so like if they tried to run away, and you had good eyes on them for where you were.
Yeah, I had eyes on them, yeah.
At the hay bale. Were you at hay bale?
No, I was still on the south side too at that time. But yeah, I mean, it just this whole like podcast is, it's it's about frustration, it's about ethics, it's about morals, it's about people that don't have them, and it's kind of like, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah,
because we may have to add to this. We're going to probably leave this one a little shorter and may have to add to this one just in case it gets a little, as you say, Western.
Yeah, I mean, to end it, the deer did travel farther south, because right before dark.
Yeah, about 30 minutes of legal light left. Mike decided, say, I'm going to get out of here. One, before I can see, because if you would have left much later, it would have been, I mean, not that you couldn't find the truck, but it would have been tough.
Yeah.
We'd have to give you some light. And basically it was like Sam stayed with Mike's truck, and I was just kind of like on the ready if they went south, just to go like pull up to the next road and see where they went. And like I said, the section to the south, we have permission on the entire piece. 3/4 of it's an L, and then there's cattle actually on that with a hot fence, so it's like they're probably not going there.
Mm-hmm.
We do have permission if they do, but we also have permission on the quarter that doesn't. It's growing wheat with a little patch of trees that's probably trees and CRP. It's probably 15, maybe 20 acres there. So I'm like, well, they're either going to go to that patch, or they're going to go right on the border of the two and try to eat the good wheat right against the corn, or eat that corn, because that corn's irrigated, so that the edge there will be better, like, growth than the rest of the place. And so I was like, well, okay. So they pull up, and so they run south. So I get up to that road, and once they started running, White Truck just said, I think he said screw it, to be honest. And plus, there was only a few minutes of legal light left. So he went south and got on this east-west road and just booked it west.
Well, he saw what he wanted to see.
He seen us not kill.
He saw those deer blow out of there 9 minutes before legal light, and he's like, oh, they're not killing that deer.
Yeah.
And he took off.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll be back in the morning. Like, if we don't see him that first 30 minutes of daylight, it'll be
probably in his truck.
If we don't see him the first 30 minutes of daylight, he probably poached it tonight.
Or found him another one.
He probably went out and poached something tonight, because he was already trying to start rifle season a day early. And I mean, if you ain't been out here, you may not understand, but it's so open, there's so much ground, and there's so few houses. And these dirt roads that we've been on the last 6 days, there's times where we parked on the side of a dirt road for
hours,
2 to 3 hours, and not even have one car come by. Not one.
Yeah.
And at most on these dirt roads, you might have 2-3 cars in like 3 hours come by.
Well, I mean,
this is a poacher's paradise.
Yeah, we were parked on that one road for longer than 3 hours, like half of the day, and we had 2 trucks and 1 car pass us.
Yeah.
That was it. All day.
That was from like 11 to 4-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just, so you can understand why these guys get away with this, and they get comfortable. And so we're gonna have an interesting morning. I'm feeling a little bit of pressure because this is the only whitetail buck we've seen worth shooting.
Yeah,
we have not located.
Yeah, I can say if it weren't him, that 6 point's not like body size is pretty solid.
Yeah, but he's just a year and a half old.
I think he's 2.5. But yeah, he's
not very big.
The body on him's getting to the point where it's like you're gonna get 150 pounds of meat off that buck. So from a meat perspective, I think he's a shooter in that way. If the other guy's not around and you're up against the clock,
we've seen 3 bucks: a spike, a 6 point, and this nice 8. And I've laid eyes on a couple.
I can say maybe three
does,
or 4 real does.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in my book, this is the only buck we found that I can really go after or want to go after, for that matter.
Right.
And, now the field is being leveled, dare I say, tomorrow with the rifle. After the experience we had today with this guy in this white truck, I'm kind of feeling the pressure. Like, if I don't locate this deer within the first 30 minutes of daylight and kill him, I don't care if we have permission or not, and this guy doesn't have permission or not. If he finds that deer, he's shooting it tomorrow with a rifle. And I don't think he gives a crap if it's on a piece that we have permission and he doesn't.
He you think of how far, like we mapped it. By the end of the day, at the end of light, when they moved the final time, these deer had traveled over 5 miles at that point.
Like 5.5 miles.
From the original spot where you saw them this morning. And this guy had been following them
the entire time.
And us the whole time. You and I are both witnesses to how much work goes in on the Burgess standpoint to obtaining permission to these properties. There is no way in the world that this guy has been able to do the exact same thing.
No. And the likelihood that he would have the connections is so unlikely. Yeah. It's so unlikely. Now, could he get permission on some of those pieces? Maybe.
Probably.
But
there's
all
probably
of the pieces?
2 of them that he probably would have. But beyond those 2, I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, and we've got
the
deer's never, like 10 around there.
Yeah, the deer never touched either of the 2 he would have probably.
Yeah.
And I'm not looking... I'm looking forward to tomorrow morning, but I'm not looking forward to seeing that white truck.
I had a thought part of the way through the day. I think it was after you witnessed him running back with the decoy and the rifle, and then the encounter with the sheriff and all that. And like, we're still going at it hard. We're still trying to get on these deer. We never stopped, but the whole time I'm thinking, man, like this is hunting, but this is so exhausting, like in a different kind of way, because like again, it's one thing. Like, I understand from like the public land side, like you go elsewhere where there's, just common public land, and yeah, you are competing or contending with other hunters, but everybody has the equal right to be out there. We are literally contending with this dirtbag who, at the squeeze of a trigger, could completely take away everything that we've been working toward the past 3 days to figure out this buck. And he just shows up and decides it's his. And that's what is sickening about these poachers. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, but tomorrow's going to be fun. Tomorrow's going to be a good day. We got 2 tags to fill in the morning.
Yep.
We actually just got interrupted by my grandma while podcasting, saying there's a big buck not far away.
Not far at all.
I'm guessing it's probably for me, but we'll see if
they're all for Tim.
we'll check the trail cameras in a minute and see if my phone's charging, because I did kill it today. Because we had Onyx so much, it actually killed my phone in a day, which is crazy. But we'll check those and see if it's maybe for Mike, which could really change the playing field. Cause
that would really change some things if a big whitetail showed up down the road.
Yeah, if this one's for you, this will be a different game tomorrow. But it's gonna be a good day. I've got, depending on which one this is, it might be one we already know about it. But if it's not, that's three roughly located. If it's Well, we have 3 located for sure, and this could make 4 that I'm definitely after. And I think 2 of them would be about my best muley. Maybe not quite. Just depends. 2 of them we've seen. My brother supposedly shot at a 6x6 in early rifle. So he went on the second weekend, so it was like the first weekend in November or so. I think I may have found that deer because I found one that's a true 4x4 with maybe some splits on 2 of his spots. They're real. It's hard to tell when they get those little splits that are like finger length or less, and so I think we may have found that deer, but we definitely found another one in an age class that's at least 4.5, another 4.5 plus age class up north. So
yeah,
I got some spots to go to, but I think you guys are gonna have a western morning up there.
Sure hope not. Sure hope it's simple and easy, but
yeah, quick.
Hope for the best and plan for the worst, I guess, is what they say.
Getting bloody within 30 minutes of daylight.
Yeah.
Yep.
But,
yeah.
Well, so the plan is, obviously, we have this last little bit of hunting to do to wrap up this trip and hopefully punch the last 2 tags quick with rifle coming in. We don't know, obviously, what the events that tomorrow will hold. We want to do some sort of update for our podcast listeners, viewers, regardless of what it is. If it's short and sweet and, happy tears at that point, then maybe it's a short recording that we knock out tomorrow before we leave camp and tack on to the end of this podcast. So if I hang up and then the podcast continues, that's why. Or maybe if it has some craziness to it or the story just warrants it, I don't know. It's to be determined whether we do a whole nother episode or not, but we'll figure that out later. And for now, we'll wrap this one up and get some shut-eye. Get ready for tomorrow.
Yeah,
check
big
the
day
games.
tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys for listening, watching, wherever you're finding your podcast. Remember that fallobsession.com is the website. That's where everything filters through. You can find all of our different varieties of content and shows and series on there, as well as our apparel and everything. Be sure you pick up some stuff for the holidays, some gifts for your favorite hunters. Don't forget about Hoot Camo. We've been repping it up here in Colorado. We're loving it. It's good stuff. And the coupon code FALLOBSESSION15 will get you 15% off your next order at Hoot Camo. And they got some awesome stuff for your hunter and your family for Christmas as well. So you can do a little shopping after you listen to this episode. But thank you guys for tuning in. Hit up all the socials, like and follow. Be sure you subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on, and we're back again next time for another Fall Obsession podcast, and I'll catch you then.